Princess Zarathel stood at the vast crystalline window of her father's palace, watching the strange metal ships descend from the stars. Her violet skin shimmered with barely contained fury, and her forearms crossed in defiant rebellion against what was to come. The Kytherian Empire had ruled this sector of the galaxy for 10,000 years, and never once had they been forced to negotiate with what they considered lesser species. Until now. The humans had arrived 3 months ago with their crude but devastatingly effective ships. Where Kytherian vessels were works of art, flowing like liquid metal and powered by harmonized crystal matrices, human ships looked like flying chunks of industrial machinery. They were ugly, loud, and somehow managed to punch through Kytherian shields like they were made of paper. My daughter, Emperor Vextar, entered the chamber, his ornate robes trailing behind him. His normally confident demeanor had been replaced by something Zarathel had never seen before: uncertainty. The human delegation has arrived for the ceremony. Zarathel turned to face her father, her large silver eyes flashing with anger. You cannot seriously intend to go through with this farce. I am a princess of the Kytherian Empire, not some bargaining chip to be traded for peace with these barbarians. The emperor sighed, his secondary arms gesturing in frustration. You think I want this? These humans appeared from nowhere and dismantled our outer defenses in weeks. Our military advisors say we would lose a prolonged conflict. This marriage alliance is our only path to peace. What do we even know about this human? This Marcus Chen? He is their military leader. Young by their standards, perhaps 30 of their years. He led the assault that broke through our defensive grid. The emperor paused, looking out at the human ships. The reports say he is honorable. He protected civilian populations during their advance and refused to bombard cities. Zarathel scoffed. How noble of him to show basic decency. The throne room doors opened with a crystalline chime, and the human delegation entered. Zarathel had seen humans before in the intelligence briefings, but seeing one in person was startling. They were so small, barely reaching her shoulder, with only 2 arms and such pale skin. But the one who led them carried himself with a confidence that commanded attention. Marcus Chen wore a simple military uniform, dark blue with minimal decoration. His black hair was cut short, and his brown eyes surveyed the ornate throne room with obvious appreciation rather than intimidation. When his gaze met Zarathel's, he offered a slight bow of respect. Your Imperial Majesty, Marcus addressed the Emperor in accented but clear Kytherian. Thank you for receiving us. Emperor Vextar gestured grandly. Commander Chen, may I present my daughter, Princess Zarathel? Marcus turned to her and bowed deeper. Your Highness. I understand this situation is difficult for all of us. Zarathel studied him carefully. She had expected a brutish warrior, scarred and crude. Instead, she saw intelligent eyes and a respectful manner that surprised her. Indeed it is, Commander. I assume you are equally thrilled about this arrangement? A slight smile crossed Marcus's face. I won't pretend to be excited about an arranged marriage, Your Highness. But I am committed to doing whatever is necessary for peace between our peoples. The formal ceremony proceeded with all the pomp the Kytherian court demanded. Ancient rituals were performed, documents signed in flowing script, and oaths sworn in multiple languages. Throughout it all, Zarathel felt like she was watching her own life from a distance. When the final binding words were spoken, she was no longer just a Kytherian princess. She was also the wife of a human. The reception that followed was awkward, with Kytherian nobles trying to make polite conversation with human diplomats who barely came up to their elbows. Zarathel noticed Marcus moving through the crowd with diplomatic grace, but she could see the strain in his posture. This was as difficult for him as it was for her. Princess Zarathel, he approached her during a quiet moment. Might we speak privately? She nodded, leading him to a smaller chamber off the main hall. The room was decorated in typical Kytherian style, with flowing organic shapes and soft, bioluminescent lighting. This is beautiful, Marcus said, genuinely admiring the architecture. Your people are incredible artists. We are, she replied curtly. Then, feeling slightly ashamed of her rudeness, she added, thank you. Marcus turned to face her fully. I want you to know that I understand how difficult this must be for you. I have no intention of forcing anything upon you or expecting you to pretend feelings you don't have. Zarathel blinked in surprise. What do you mean? I mean that while we are married for political purposes, you remain free to live your life as you choose. I ask only that we present a united front in public to maintain the peace treaty. In private, you owe me nothing. This was not what she had expected at all. And, what of heirs? Surely the treaty requires. Marcus shook his head. The treaty requires our marriage, nothing more. Your father was quite clear about that point during negotiations. For the first time since learning of the arrangement, Zarathel felt some of the tension leave her shoulders. Thank you. That is more consideration than I expected. May I ask you something, princess? Please, just Zara. And, yes. What did you want to be? Before all this, what were your dreams? The question caught her off guard. No one had ever asked her that before. I studied xenobiology at the Imperial Academy. I wanted to explore new worlds, catalog unknown species. I had hoped to join the Scientific Exploration Corps. Marcus's eyes lit up with genuine interest. That's fascinating. We have similar organizations in human space. What draws you to xenobiology? Despite herself, Zara found herself explaining her passion for discovering how life adapted to different environments, how evolution created such wonderful diversity across the galaxy. Marcus listened intently, asking thoughtful questions that showed he understood the science involved. You know, he said when she finished, this marriage might not have to end your scientific career. In fact, it might enhance it. Humans and Kytherians working together could accomplish far more than either species alone. What do you mean? Well, humans have been exploring and cataloging for centuries, but we lack the biological sciences your people have developed. Meanwhile, Kytherians have incredible scientific knowledge but have been limited to this sector of space. Together, we could explore regions neither species could safely travel alone, Zara finished, her scientific mind immediately grasping the possibilities. Exactly. And who better to lead such an expedition than someone who understands both cultures? For the first time in months, Zara felt a spark of hope. Maybe this arrangement didn't have to be the end of her dreams. Maybe it could be the beginning of something even greater. Over the following days, as they prepared for their departure to the human colony world that would serve as their home, Zara found herself spending more time talking with Marcus. He was remarkably well educated for a military officer, with interests ranging from ancient Earth history to quantum physics. More importantly, he treated her as an equal, seeking her opinions and listening to her ideas. Tell me about this world we're going to, she said as they reviewed star charts in her study. New Geneva is a frontier colony, about 50,000 humans and now home to the Joint Diplomatic Station. It's not as developed as the core worlds, but that means there's more opportunity to build something new. Marcus pointed to various features on the holographic display. The planet has 3 continents, diverse biomes, and several indigenous species that haven't been fully studied yet. Zara's eyes widened. Indigenous species? Unexplored biomes? I thought that might interest you, Marcus smiled. The colonial administration has been too busy with basic infrastructure to conduct proper scientific surveys. It could be the perfect opportunity for you to continue your research. You planned this, she accused, but there was no anger in her voice. I researched what might make this situation bearable for both of us, he admitted. I'm going to be managing the integration of human and Kytherian military protocols. You could be pioneering entirely new forms of xenobiological research. We each get to do what we're passionate about. As their ship prepared for departure, Zara stood once again at a window, but this time she wasn't watching in dread. The human transport vessel was indeed crude compared to Kytherian ships, but it represented something she had never expected: possibility. Marcus joined her at the observation deck. Any regrets? Zara considered the question seriously. 3 months ago, she would have said yes without hesitation. Now, looking at the stars that would soon be her new home, she felt something different. Ask me again in a year, she said. The journey to New Geneva took 2 weeks, during which Zara learned more about human culture than she had thought possible. Marcus introduced her to human literature, music, and art, while she shared Kytherian poetry and philosophical traditions with him. Their conversations ranged from technical discussions about faster-than-light travel to debates about the nature of consciousness. What surprised Zara most was how much she enjoyed these exchanges. Marcus had a curious mind that complemented her own, and she found herself looking forward to their daily talks over meals or during their exercise periods. "Your people's approach to warfare is fascinating," she said one day as they reviewed historical texts. "Humans seem to excel at adapting to impossible odds." "It comes from growing up on a world that was constantly trying to kill us," Marcus replied. "When your home planet has predators, natural disasters, and diseases all competing to end your species, you learn to be resourceful." "Is that why humans spread so quickly once you achieved spaceflight?" "Partly. But also because staying in one place feels wrong to us. We're explorers by nature. It's probably why we adapted to space travel faster than most species expect." Zara nodded thoughtfully. "Kytherians are the opposite. We perfect our domains rather than expand them. It's why our empire has been stable for so long, but also why we were caught off guard by your arrival." "Different evolutionary pressures create different strengths," Marcus observed. "That's what makes this alliance potentially so powerful." When New Geneva finally appeared in the viewports, Zara felt her breath catch. The planet was beautiful, with swirling blue oceans and green continents that reminded her of ancient Kytherian worlds. But what struck her most was seeing human and Kytherian ships working together in orbit, their different technologies creating a unique and harmonious pattern. "Welcome to your new home," Marcus said softly. As their shuttle descended toward the surface, Zara realized that for the first time in her life, she was genuinely excited about an unknown future. New Geneva's capital city of harmony stretched along the coast of the largest continent, a fascinating blend of human practicality and Kytherian artistic sensibility. The colonial administration had worked hard to create a settlement that would feel welcoming to both species, and the result was unlike anything in known space. Zara stepped off the shuttle and breathed in the alien air. The atmosphere was remarkably similar to her homeworld, but carried scents that were entirely new. Flowering plants she had never seen before lined the walkways, and, in the distance, she could hear the calls of native creatures. "The Xenobiology department has prepared a full briefing for you," Marcus said as they walked toward the administrative complex. Dr. Sarah Mitchell leads the human research team, and she's eager to collaborate with someone of your expertise. Their new residence was a compromise between human and Kytherian architecture. The basic structure followed human engineering principles: sturdy, efficient, built to last. But Kytherian designers had added flowing decorative elements, living walls of carefully cultivated plants, and lighting that mimicked the bioluminescent effects of her homeworld. "It's lovely," Zara admitted as they toured the spacious quarters. "Though quite large for just the two of us." "I thought you might want space to set up a private laboratory," Marcus explained. "And there are guest quarters for when your research teams visit." Zara turned to study him. Every day brought some new evidence that he had put considerable thought into making this arrangement work for her. "You didn't have to do all this." "Yes, I did," Marcus replied seriously. "A forced marriage is bad enough. The least I can do is make sure you can pursue your dreams." That evening, they attended their first official dinner as representatives of the new alliance. The gathering included human colonial administrators, Kytherian diplomatic staff, and representatives from several other species who had been watching the human-Kytherian situation with intense interest. Ambassador Tola, an insectoid Zephyrian, approached Zara during the reception. "Princess, your marriage has created quite a stir throughout the sector. Many species are curious about how humans and Kytherians will adapt to each other." "It's an ongoing process," Zara replied diplomatically. "Indeed. The Zephyrian collective has had minimal contact with humans, but we've observed their expansion with interest." "They are aggressive?" Marcus appeared at Zara's side, having overheard the question. "We prefer to think of ourselves as determined, Ambassador Tola." "Ah, Commander Chen. Your reputation precedes you." The military action at Kepler Station was most impressive. Zara saw Marcus stiffen slightly. We regret that military action was necessary at all. Our goal was always peaceful contact. Yet you came prepared for war, Tkola observed. We came prepared for any possibility, Marcus corrected. Humans learned long ago that hoping for the best while preparing for the worst leads to better outcomes than the reverse. After the ambassador moved on, Zara looked at Marcus curiously. Kepler Station? Marcus was quiet for a moment. It was a Kytherian military outpost that refused to acknowledge our diplomatic credentials. They opened fire on our negotiation fleet. What happened? We eliminated their weapons platforms and disabled their ships without destroying them. No lives were lost, but the message was clear. Marcus met her eyes. Your people aren't the only ones who value honor, Zara. We just define it differently. The next few weeks fell into a surprisingly comfortable routine. Marcus spent his days working with both human and Kytherian military personnel to establish joint defense protocols, while Zara threw herself into her xenobiological research. New Geneva's ecosystems were more complex and fascinating than anyone had initially realized. Look at this, Zara called excitedly as Marcus entered her laboratory one evening. She was bent over a microscope, her forearms adjusting various instruments simultaneously. The cellular structure of the local plant life incorporates metallic elements in ways I've never seen before. Marcus peered into a secondary viewer she had prepared. It looks almost crystalline. Exactly. The plants are literally growing metallic crystals within their cellular walls. It makes them incredibly hardy, but it also means they can conduct electricity. The entire forest might function as a massive biological circuit. That could explain some of the unusual electromagnetic readings we've been getting from the southern continent, Marcus mused. Zara looked up from her instruments. What readings? Our satellites detected patterns that looked almost like communication signals, but they seemed to be coming from the forest itself rather than any artificial source. Marcus, this could be incredible. What if the forests are actually communicating? What if we're looking at a planet-scale biological network? Would that be unique? Unprecedented, Zara said breathlessly. There are theories about such things, but no one has ever documented actual proof. If we could confirm this. She trailed off, her scientific excitement overwhelming her ability to articulate the implications. Marcus smiled at her enthusiasm. What would you need to investigate properly? Extensive field research. Months of study in different biomes. Equipment that can monitor biological electrical activity across large areas. She paused, her excitement dimming. Resources that would be almost impossible to justify for what might be just theoretical research. What if it wasn't just theoretical research? What if it was also practical? Zara looked at him curiously. Think about it, Marcus continued. If the planet has a biological communication network, understanding it could be crucial for colonization. We need to know if human activities might disrupt essential planetary systems. This isn't just pure science, it's environmental protection with practical implications for everyone living here. You're suggesting I frame this as an environmental impact study? I'm suggesting you present it as what it actually is, essential research for the long-term success of New Geneva as a colony world. The proposal Zara submitted to the Joint Research Council was approved unanimously. Within a month, she found herself leading the first comprehensive xenobiological survey of New Geneva, with research teams from both human and Kytherian institutions working under her direction. The work was everything she had dreamed of and more. Each day brought new discoveries about the complex interconnections between New Geneva's various species. The metallic plants were indeed part of a communication network, but it was far more sophisticated than she had initially imagined. The entire ecosystem is sharing information, she explained to Marcus over dinner in their quarters. Plants warn each other about weather patterns, animal migrations, even seismic activity. The forests are constantly adapting to changes across the planet. How is that possible? The root systems connect underground, and the metallic cellular structures allow for electrical communication faster than nerve impulses. It's like the whole planet has a nervous system. Marcus set down his fork, considering the implications. Zara, if you're right about this, it could change how we approach colonization throughout the galaxy. Worlds we thought were just collections of separate ecosystems might actually be unified organisms. Exactly. And, if we're not careful, we could accidentally damage planetary systems that took millions of years to develop. Their research continued through the changing seasons of New Geneva. Zara found herself working closely with Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the human xenobiologist, and was pleased to discover that human scientific methods complemented Kytherian techniques beautifully. Where Kytherian research focused on understanding the aesthetic and harmonic patterns of natural systems, human approaches excelled at quantifying and measuring specific phenomena. Your people see the forest as a symphony, Sarah observed during one of their field expeditions. Ours see it as an equation. Together, we're getting both the music and the mathematics. That's a beautiful way to put it, Zara replied. She had grown fond of Dr. Mitchell, who shared her passion for discovery and had a gift for explaining complex concepts in accessible terms. As the months passed, Zara began to notice changes in herself that had nothing to do with her research. She found herself looking forward to her conversations with Marcus each evening, sharing not just the day's discoveries but her thoughts and feelings about their strange situation. "Do you ever miss Earth?" she asked one night as they walked through the gardens surrounding their residence. "Sometimes," Marcus admitted. "I miss the familiarity of it. The way rain smells, the particular color of sunset. But I don't miss the crowds or the politics." "What was your home like?" "I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, near the ocean. My parents were both marine biologists, actually. They spent most of their time studying whale migration patterns." Zara stopped walking. "Your parents were scientists? Is that surprising?" "I assumed, with your military background." Marcus smiled. "That I was born to be a soldier?" "No, I studied engineering and computer systems. I joined the military because humanity needed experienced officers for space exploration, and civilian positions weren't available when we first started expanding. So you gave up your original dreams for duty, just as I thought I was giving up mine. The difference is, your dreams are coming true. Mine, well, maybe they are too, in a different way than I expected." "What do you mean?" Marcus was quiet for a moment, then gestured toward the city lights below them. "Look at what we're building here, Zara. Humans and Kytherians working together, sharing knowledge, creating something neither species could accomplish alone. This isn't just a political alliance, it's the beginning of something unprecedented." Zara followed his gaze. In the months since their arrival, harmony had grown considerably. New buildings reflected the collaborative architectural style that was emerging, blending practical human design with Kytherian artistic sensibility. Parks and gardens created spaces where both species could feel comfortable. Most remarkably, mixed research teams had become common throughout the colony. "You really believe this can work long-term?" she asked. "I believe we're proving it can work. Look at your research project. 6 months ago, the idea of joint human Kytherian scientific expeditions would have been unthinkable. Now you're leading teams that include members from both species, plus observers from a dozen other civilizations." It was true. Word of their discoveries on New Geneva had spread throughout the galactic community, and requests for collaboration had been pouring in from research institutions across known space. The planetary communication network they had documented was being studied by xenobiologists, physicists, and even philosophers from dozens of different species. "The Andromedans want to send a delegation," Zara mentioned. "And the Crystalline Collective has requested access to our data on metallic plant structures. Your work is becoming the foundation for a new era of interspecies cooperation," Marcus said proudly. That night, as Zara prepared for sleep, she reflected on how much her life had changed. A year ago, she had been a princess whose future was entirely predetermined. Now she was a pioneering researcher whose work was reshaping scientific understanding across the galaxy. But, more than that, she was discovering aspects of herself she had never known existed. Working with beings from different species had taught her to see problems from multiple perspectives. Leading research teams had developed her confidence as a decision-maker. And her daily conversations with Marcus had awakened an intellectual partnership she had never thought possible. The next morning brought news that would test everything they had built together. A message from the Kytherian Empire arrived on a priority communication channel, marked for the immediate attention of Princess Zarathel. Her father's holographic image appeared in their private quarters, his expression grave. "My daughter, I hope this message finds you well. I am afraid I must inform you of disturbing developments here at home." Marcus stood beside Zara as the message continued. "Conservative factions within the Imperial Council have been spreading claims that your marriage alliance was unnecessary, that humanity could have been defeated through conventional warfare. They argue that the resources being devoted to New Geneva would be better used to rebuild our military strength." Zara felt her heart sink. "Father, what are you saying? There will be challenges to the marriage treaty. Formal diplomatic protests calling for its dissolution. Some council members believe that if the alliance fails, it will prove human weakness and justify military action to reclaim our territorial losses." The implications were staggering. If the marriage alliance failed, it would not only end the peace treaty but likely lead to renewed warfare between their species. Everything they had built on New Geneva would be destroyed. However, the Emperor continued, "There is hope. If your alliance can demonstrate tangible benefits to both species' scientific, economic, or cultural achievements that clearly result from cooperation, it would provide evidence that the treaty serves Kytherian interests." The message ended with personal words of affection and concern, but Zara barely heard them. She was processing the political reality they now faced. "How long do we have?" Marcus asked quietly. "The Imperial Council meets in 6 months to review all treaty obligations. If we can't demonstrate significant success by then..." She didn't need to finish the sentence. Marcus took her hand, a gesture that had become natural between them over the months. "Then, we'd better make sure we have something impressive to show them." The news from the Kytherian Empire transformed the atmosphere on New Geneva. What had been a peaceful research colony suddenly felt like the front line of an invisible war between conservative and progressive forces across both civilizations. Zara threw herself into her work with renewed urgency, but the pressure was affecting everyone. Research teams that had been collaborative and excited now worked with the desperate efficiency of people racing against time. "We need something bigger than botanical discoveries," Dr. Mitchell said during their morning briefing. "The political implications require proof that cooperation produces results impossible for either species alone." Marcus had been unusually quiet during recent planning sessions, spending long hours in communication with human military command and civilian leadership. When he finally revealed what he had been working on, it exceeded everyone's expectations. "The Andromedans have proposed a joint expedition to the Vale Nebula," he announced during their evening meal. "They're offering to provide their advanced propulsion technology in exchange for participation in a joint research mission." Zara nearly dropped her eating utensil. "The Vale Nebula?" "Marcus, that's one of the most dangerous regions in known space. The gravitational anomalies alone have destroyed dozens of ships." "Which is exactly why no one has been able to study it properly," Marcus replied. "But Andromedan technology could get us through the outer barriers, human engineering could build ships capable of surviving the interior conditions, and Kytherian biological expertise could help us understand what we find there." "What makes you think there's anything worth finding in that cosmic graveyard?" Marcus activated a holographic display showing the nebula's structure. Long-range scans have detected artificial structures in the nebula's core. Something built them, and whatever civilization created them was advanced enough to survive conditions that destroy modern ships. Zara studied the data carefully. The implications were staggering. "You're talking about first contact with a completely unknown species, or archaeological discovery of a vanished one. Either way, it would be the most significant scientific achievement in galactic history. And it would require unprecedented cooperation between multiple species," Zara realized. "The kind of cooperation that proves the value of our alliance." Over the following weeks, the expedition plan took shape with breathtaking speed. The Andromedans provided their expertise in exotic matter propulsion and gravitic shielding. Human engineers designed modular ship systems that could be reconfigured during the mission. Kytherian scientists contributed biological analysis systems and cultural interpretation protocols. But the most significant development was Zara's growing role as the expedition's coordinator. Her unique position as both a Kytherian princess and the wife of a human military commander gave her credibility with all the participating species. More importantly, her scientific background allowed her to understand the technical requirements, while her diplomatic training helped her navigate the complex political considerations. "You're becoming quite the leader," Marcus observed one evening as they reviewed personnel assignments for the expedition. "I never wanted to be a leader," Zara replied. "I wanted to be a researcher." "Who says you can't be both?" "The best leaders are often those who understand the work they're directing." The expedition fleet that assembled in orbit around New Geneva was unlike anything previously seen in galactic space. Andromedan vessels looked like flowing sculptures made of liquid metal. Human ships maintained their characteristic industrial aesthetic but incorporated elegant Kytherian design elements. Kytherian vessels had been modified with human defensive systems and Andromedan propulsion enhancements. "It's beautiful," Zara whispered as they approached their flagship, the joint vessel named Harmony Stream. The ship itself represented everything their alliance hoped to achieve. The command bridge was designed to accommodate multiple species, with environmental controls that could adjust atmosphere, gravity, and lighting for different crew members. The scientific laboratories combined the best equipment from all three civilizations. Captain Elena Rodriguez, the human commander assigned to lead the expedition, met them at the airlock. "Princess Zarathel, Commander Chen, welcome aboard. I have to say, this is the most extraordinary ship I've ever had the privilege to command." The journey to the Veil Nebula took 3 weeks, during which the mixed crew learned to work together in ways that surprised everyone involved. Andromedan navigation officers collaborated with human engineers to optimize their approach vector. Kytherian biologists worked with Andromedan physicists to develop new sensor arrays. But the most remarkable development was watching Zara emerge as the expedition's natural leader. Her ability to communicate effectively with all species, combined with her scientific expertise, made her the person everyone turned to when difficult decisions needed to be made. "The gravitational distortions are increasing," reported Lieutenant Commander Th Zhao, the Andromedan navigation officer. "Recommend reducing velocity by 30%. "Agreed," Zara responded without hesitation. "Dr. Chen, what's the status of the modified shields?" Marcus checked his instruments. "Holding steady, but we're approaching the theoretical limits of the design. If the distortions get much worse, then we adapt," Zara said calmly. "That's why we brought the best minds from 3 civilizations. Commander Rodriguez, please signal the escort ships to maintain formation but be prepared for emergency maneuvers." The nebula's interior was more spectacular and dangerous than anyone had imagined. Streams of exotic matter flowed between massive gravitational anomalies, creating a constantly shifting maze that challenged even Andromedan navigation technology. "I'm detecting artificial structures," announced Dr. Kestel, the Kytherian sensor specialist. "Range approximately 50,000 kilometers, bearing 27 Mark IV. The main viewer activated, revealing the most incredible sight any of them had ever witnessed. Floating in the chaotic energy streams of the nebula's core was a city, or perhaps an entire civilization's worth of structures, built on a scale that dwarfed even the largest space stations. "By the ancestors," whispered Captain Rodriguez. "How is that possible?" "The structures appear to be using the nebula's gravitational forces to maintain their position," reported the Andromedan science officer. "Instead of fighting the environment, they're integrated with it." As they approached, more details became visible. The structures were not ships or space stations in any conventional sense. They appeared to be grown rather than built, with organic curves that followed the flow of gravitational forces. Most remarkably, they were inhabited. "I'm detecting life signs," Dr. Chen announced. "Multiple species, some of which match no known biological patterns. Can we establish communication?" Zara asked. "Working on it," replied the communications officer. "Their transmission methods are unlike anything in our databases, but the universal translation protocols are adapting." When contact was finally established, the beings who responded called themselves the Nexus, not a single species, but a coalition of civilizations that had sought refuge in the nebula thousands of years ago when their original worlds were threatened by cosmic disasters. "We have watched your approach with great interest," their representative explained through the translation system. "It has been many centuries since three different species worked together so harmoniously to reach us." The formal first contact protocols took several days, during which the expedition learned incredible things about the Nexus civilization. They had indeed built their society around cooperation between multiple species, developing technologies that required the unique capabilities of different biological forms. "Your arrival proves something we have long hoped," the Nexus representative continued. "The galaxy is ready for true cooperation between species. We have much knowledge to share, but only with those who prove they can work together peacefully." The technologies offered by the Nexus included medical advances that could extend lifespans across species, agricultural techniques that could make barren worlds fertile, and communication systems that would allow instant contact across galactic distances. "This changes everything," Marcus said privately to Zara as they prepared their preliminary reports for transmission back to New Geneva. "This isn't just scientific discovery, it's the foundation for a new galactic civilization. And it only happened because humans, Kytherians, and Andromedans were willing to trust each other," Zara replied. "Our personal alliance made this possible, but the implications go far beyond just our two species." The return journey to New Geneva was triumphant, with representatives from the Nexus accompanying them to establish formal diplomatic relations with the galactic community. By the time they arrived, word of their success had spread throughout known space. The Imperial Council's review of the marriage treaty was no longer a question of whether it provided benefits to the Kytherian Empire. The expedition's discoveries had proven beyond doubt that cooperation between species could achieve what none could accomplish alone. But, for Zara, the political victory was secondary to a more personal realization that had been growing throughout their journey. Somewhere between the forced marriage and the scientific triumph, she had fallen genuinely in love with her husband. It wasn't the dramatic romance of fiction stories. Instead, it was the deep affection that grew from shared challenges, mutual respect, and discovered compatibility. Marcus had become her closest friend, her intellectual equal, and her emotional support. The evening of their return to New Geneva, they stood together on the observation deck of their quarters, watching the celebration in the city below. Fireworks from a dozen different worlds painted the sky in colors that human and Kytherian eyes perceived differently but both found beautiful. "So," Marcus said quietly, "how would you answer that question I asked you a year ago? About regrets?" Zara considered carefully. "I regret that it took a forced marriage to bring us together. I regret the political pressure that threatened our worlds. But I don't regret the marriage itself." Marcus turned to face her fully. "Neither do I. In fact, I was hoping we might consider making it real in more than just political terms." "You mean?" "I mean I love you, Zara. Not because our alliance is politically useful, but because you're brilliant, brave, compassionate, and everything I never knew I was looking for in a partner." Zara felt her hearts racing, both of them, in the way that only happened during moments of intense emotion. "I love you too, Marcus. I think I have for months, but I was afraid to admit it." Their first real kiss was awkward, given the differences in their physiology, but they managed to make it work. Like everything else in their relationship, it required patience, communication, and a willingness to adapt to each other's needs. The wedding celebration they held 6 months later was attended by representatives from dozens of species, including the Nexus delegation that had become permanent ambassadors to the galactic community. It was not a political ceremony this time, but a genuine celebration of love between two individuals who had found each other across the vast differences of species and culture. Emperor Vextar gave a speech that brought tears to many eyes. "My daughter asked for my blessing to marry again, this time for love rather than duty. I told her that she already had it, that any marriage which could bring such benefits to so many civilizations deserved to be celebrated rather than merely tolerated." Dr. Mitchell, now the head of the Interspecies Research Institute that Zara had founded, spoke about the scientific discoveries that continued to flow from their collaborative approach. The princess and the commander proved that cooperation produces results impossible through individual effort. Their work together has reshaped how we think about everything from planetary ecology to galactic diplomacy. But the speech that moved Zara most came from an unexpected source, Ambassador Tola, the Zephyrian who had questioned human intentions during their first diplomatic dinner. "I must confess," the insectoid diplomat said, "that I initially viewed the human-Kytherian alliance with suspicion. Humans seemed too aggressive, too unpredictable. Kytherians appeared too rigid, too set in their ancient ways. But watching these two individuals learn to love each other taught me something important about both species. Humans are not aggressive, they are determined. Kytherians are not rigid, they are thoughtful. Together, they demonstrate the best qualities of both civilizations." As the celebration continued into the night, Zara and Marcus found themselves alone for a few moments in the garden where they had taken their first walk as a married couple. "What happens now?" Zara asked. "Now we continue building something that never existed before," Marcus replied. "A galactic community where different species don't just coexist, but truly collaborate. And we do it together." The xenobiology expedition to the crystalline worlds launches next month, Zara mentioned. 3 species working together to study silicon-based life forms. The Joint Military Academy graduated its first class of interspecies officers last week, Marcus added. "The future looks very bright." Zara leaned against him, marveling at how natural the gesture had become despite their physical differences. "Do you think we'll ever have children?" "The medical teams are optimistic about the compatibility research," Marcus said carefully. "But even if that doesn't work out, look at what we've already created together. This alliance, this community, these scientific advances, they're all our children in a way." "That's true. Though I still hope for little ones who have your curiosity and my sense of adventure." With their own unique combination of human and Kytherian traits, Marcus agreed. "Can you imagine the trouble they'll get into?" As they laughed together under the alien stars of New Geneva, Zara reflected on the incredible journey that had brought her from reluctant princess to galactic pioneer. The marriage that had begun as a diplomatic necessity had become the foundation for changes that would reshape civilization itself. But, more than that, it had become a love story not just between two individuals, but between entire civilizations learning to see past their differences to discover their common dreams. And, at the heart of it all was a truth that had surprised everyone involved: sometimes the most unlikely alliances produce the most extraordinary results. The future stretched ahead of them, full of challenges and possibilities they could barely imagine. New worlds to explore, new species to meet, new scientific mysteries to unravel. And they would face it all together, the human and the Kytherian, proving every day that love truly could conquer not just personal differences, but the barriers between entire civilizations. In the end, Zara had found something she never expected when she stood at her father's window watching the human ships arrive: not just a husband, but a true partner in every sense of the word. Someone who shared her dreams, supported her ambitions, and loved her for exactly who she was: not a princess bound by duty, but a scientist and explorer ready to help shape the future of the galaxy. The gorgeous alien princess had indeed found real joy, but it was a joy that extended far beyond her own happiness to touch the lives of countless beings across the stars.